Hey guys, welcome to the video. Welcome back to the channel. Today, let me clarify a little bit based off of what the title says. I want to have a little back and forth of the points that people have saying that there's going to be no alt season and or we are entering or already in a bear market. So there are some valid points to that. I'm not going to lie. There are also some valid points to there being an alt season and bull market. And there can be points to both sides. Doesn't mean both are true. But I want to play with the concept of if the bears are right. Okay? To make it clear, I believe we're going to have an alt season. I believe that we're in a bull market. I don't think it's arguable actually that we're in a bull market. You can just see how everything's been going up. It has been dominated heavily by the top 5-10, specifically Bitcoin, obviously. But there's a lot more worry, concern, and potential valid points about no alt season. And I want to kind of bring those up a little bit because a lot of times we tend to, at least those of us who are bullish on crypto in an alt season, we tend to veer away from it. Fuck it. Let's hit it right on. What are some of the valid points the bears might have? And what do I agree with or disagree with? So here comes my opinions. Obviously, no financial advice. A little bit of advice that I have for YouTube is if you get something valid from this, or you've seen me on your feed several times, clicked a few videos, feel free to please click that like button, subscribe. It really does help me out. But let's talk about some valid points that there might be of having no alt season and how strong, how substantiated are these? So real quick, let's just make sure we're on the same page. Let's define what we're looking at as an alt season. It's essentially when every crypto, I guess you can say excluding Bitcoin, but really it doesn't have to. It can be all, but they all just shoot the hell up, right? To where Bitcoin dominates traditionally, or the amount of liquidity or money that's in crypto, the chunk of that that's in Bitcoin is roughly 50% or less, give or take, right? Which means the other 50 to 65% or so is in all the other coins. That's letting us know that altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin. People are buying those. It's euphoric. It's awesome. We never feel it's going to end, and then it usually does before we noticed. So that's what alt season is in a very tight nutshell. So the first skeptical argument, which at first seems like it holds some weight, is the fact that there's just way too many effing crypto right now. So the argument isn't that there's a lot of crypto. There is. There's a shit ton of crypto coins out there, right? And there's more that can come out literally every day. So the argument for bears in this case is that there's too many crypto to spread the liquidity all across. It's going to be impossible, essentially, for all coins to go up because there's just too many to choose from. Okay. I understand that point. I don't agree with that as anything to stop an altcoin season. The rationale I have behind that is, yeah, if it was divided evenly, if all the money, let's say there's $4 trillion into crypto, and if it was divided evenly across all this crypto, yeah, there's not going to be anything that skyrockets. Right? One, alt season doesn't work that way. It's not that all crypto go up at the same time, right? They all go up in different phases together. So the liquidity kind of changes and moves maybe from these coins to these coins. Now this money splits into these two coins or these two narratives, and they go up in chunks pretty quickly, but definitely over time. That's why there's the volatility of the up and down. It's not just all straight up. And then, so that's one point. The stronger point is, of those tens of thousands of cryptos out there, how many are people actually buying? The little old lady that's standing in the grocery store, hear people talking about crypto, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go ahead and buy just the tip off of some side exchange on Solana. Like, no, that shit doesn't happen. When retail, more retail, because we're retail, when new retail comes in or old retail comes back, most of them aren't going to hop on exchanges that require VPNs or anything. They're going to go to Coinbase and Binance, and they're going to buy the top couple hundred crypto. And I can actually even prove that because that's what we always do. Was it the top 10 crypto, roughly, depending on the day, is about 85%, give or take, of all the liquidity in crypto. So if that's just the top 10, when you get down to the top 300, it's about the top 95 to 99% of all money in crypto is right there in the top 300. So sure, we can have 100,000 crypto, but only about 300 actually seem to matter, which isn't too much different from before. And when we talk about those really low crypto coins, the ones that are like $10 million market cap and lower, those are our casinos for the most part. So I don't buy this actually holds up, but the thought is talked about a lot. So people do believe it. And if people believe it, there might be less likely to hop into crypto. That's the best I can substantiate that argument. Another one is just saying we're too late. It's a 4-year cycle, and we are essentially at the point. The 4-year cycle is supposed to, if it was to the T, I think that was going to be in like the 3rd week of October. But if you believe that's 4-year cycle, always no chance of extending, we're done, we're too late. I guess I don't have a strong argument other than I don't believe that. Okay, yeah, I mean, there's actually several things I can point out or suggest that we are going to keep going further for crypto, right? And to global supply, a lot more money coming in. There's a lot of regulation and legislation coming out for it. We're having large corporations dump stable coins onto a lot of layer ones and networks, which who cares about stable coins? Yes, should, because it's what helps pull liquidity in. They're going to use those stable coins on the ecosystem, which what does that do? Flywheel effect to help promote everything coming up. Here in the US, there's a chance we're going to get another round of stimulus checks. That was pretty effing big last time that happened. If everyone gets $2,000, yes, not everyone's going to throw it into crypto, but will it be enough to make some numbers move? I think it will. Right? I don't believe that all the capital rotation is behind us, but I can see kind of the argument if you think it's only going to be the top 100 crypto, right? And then it's not going to be full-fledged alt season and only the ones that have massive adoption capabilities, massive use cases, or see as storages of wealth like Bitcoin. I can kind of give you that one. I just don't think that's going to happen. Though I guess also to throw that back out there, I wouldn't be shocked if Altseason ends up being just the top 300 crypto, kind of for what I've talked about before. I'm not going to say I've been leaning that way and believing that fully because I still have microcap coins. And I don't plan on selling them until a certain date that I have in my mind, or actually I said in a previous video of, we'll call it a backup plan. But regardless, there's a little bit I can see onto this claim. I just don't fully believe it. But if you said it's only going to be the top 100 or so, and there's not going to be an alt season other than that, I'm open to hearing that argument. I'd love to hear a little bit more for this or any other points actually down in the comments below. One that kind of piggybacks on that, but is also different, is saying institutions only want Bitcoin and Ethereum. The concept is a common worry that institutional money has been floating into Bitcoin and Ethereum, mostly through ETFs, not into the altcoins. And without big institutions buying the alts, there won't be an alt season. The logic here is if the big money doesn't join alts early, there won't be enough fuel for large-scale moves. So again, there's definitely some validity into this one. Large corporations and institutions definitely prefer Bitcoin and Ethereum. That I don't think is a question. You can see it. You can see the inflows of ETFs. And generally, when we look at the whole concept of alt season, the path to alt season, people buy Bitcoin, it goes up. They sell Bitcoin, they put in Ethereum, that goes up. They sell Ethereum and puts it in. Well, this concept does ruin that in my mind. So I do see some strong points in this case, right? Because if it's mostly institutional money that's coming and buying Bitcoin and Ethereum by either through Bitcoin and Ethereum reserves or ETFs, yeah, these companies aren't going to sell Bitcoin and Ethereum to buy the altcoins. That's what retail does. So if most Bitcoin and Ethereum is owned by institutions, and you're going to say they're not going to sell to go buy the crappy altcoins, I think you're right. And that could slow down, honestly, how many of the altcoins get bought. And this is where, back to the favor of maybe just the larger altcoins, top 300, is they will also have ETFs, let alone they're going to be in more index funds and everything to where you can buy in chunks, because that's already been kind of happening. So I guess I do kind of agree with this point. And I could see this being something that stops a lot of the smaller altcoins from really boosting up the same way. There's always going to be gambling. There's always going to be random pumps of crypto. But could this be the end of the standard path to alt season of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and going the way down? It could be. And if it is, I think there's a much better chance of there's still going to be narrative pumps. Like there was the Privacy pump, right? Zcash flying up the window, people talking about Litecoin again. And we've had RWA pumps, we've had meme seasons. That might be what we end up sticking to. I don't know. But also, that's for this alt season. Step aside real quick for down the road. This could actually probably be pretty good for a lot of altcoins with more ETFs, because corporations and institutions are going to look at buying a little riskier stuff down the road. I think I can prove that because they already are. Not like I believe Solana and XRP are risky in the world of crypto. They are risky in terms of assets, but they're definitely riskier than Bitcoin and Ethereum. And there's a lot of companies that are buying and holding Solana reserves and XRP reserves. And if we're already doing that, the odds of there eventually being Hedera reserves, Avalanche reserves, Chainlink, VeChain, those kind, that's pretty likely. But that's down the road for future stuff. For this season, yeah, institutional focus is definitely on Bitcoin and Ethereum. So there's going to be less selling pressure at the top to move into altcoins. And it comes to the next one tied with that is retail isn't back. And this is a major concern for a lot of people, with the concept that retail hype is what drives alt season. But retail hasn't really come back at scale. We're missing the FOMO. We're missing the social media mania. We're missing the major Coinbase and Binance and app signups that we had from 21. And without the thought that altcoins just can't explode. So the idea here is, without thousands of people frantically trading alts, the momentum engine is kind of off. On the other side of the argument, I mean, retail is indeed a delayed engine right now. Again, I'd have to be making shit up to tell you otherwise, and I'm not here to do that, right? It often shows up after the early movers. Another kind of point, I think, is let's look back at the Trump pump when he was elected. We had prices went up. Like, people with them were calling for alt season. People now say that that was alt season, which if so was a very weak one, but it is better than what we have right now, to be completely frank. But that wasn't new retail either that came in. That was us. That was us that are in it now, that were in it then. Granted, some people have probably left, but they weren't new crypto owners. They were people who had crypto that saw the potential of a very good thing and threw a lot more money into the mix. Yeah, there were definitely a few people that have been in crypto before that was the catalyst to bring them back in. But it wasn't all the new guys that we're waiting for. And the point is, so then maybe we don't need that, right? It could be another lighter alt pump like that, where things only go up 3 to 8x as opposed to 20 plus. But that's just from not even adding any new people, just from the people we have in here adding money when they believe it's going to go up. So I don't think that can go ahead and say that alt season's dead. And I do think we can still have it just with those of us here. That does, however, mean a lot of us are going to be losers in this whole thing. But that also hasn't changed. It's always going to be that way. Sorry, most of us aren't going to make money from crypto short-term or long-term. Short-term because we make emotional things. Long-term because most of us don't stick into it for the long term. Plain and simple, at least as far as I see it. So the big picture, summarizing a little bit, is the skeptic arguments, there are somewhat valid in parts. Really are. They don't rule out alt season. In my view, they just kind of highlight how it might look different than the past ones. Again, key points still supporting alt season is liquidity is concentrating the top coins, so the too many coin issue, not buying it. All right, Bitcoin and Ethereum still have consolidation heads, which does give alts a chance for rotation coming in. Even if it's just people we buy, maybe it's not Bitcoin and Ethereum that ends up selling off to roll into lower alts. Maybe it's Solana, XRP, Link, Hedera, some of those others that's in the top. Maybe those are what get sold to go off into the lower crypto. Very strong possibility. We're still going to have the narrative shifts because we see that where one narrative pumps up and maybe it's like, why are those 7 coins going up for no damn reason? It's the narrative. It's what's popular right now. It's the flavor of the week. And again, it did pump in 2024 at the end of it, but it was with the retail that's already in. So we don't actually need more retail for what other people have already called an alt season. So that takes out that argument completely. However, if we're looking for the mega alt season where things right now go up 20 to 50x, I do think we need new retail for that. What are your guys' thoughts? What are your strongest arguments for an alt season? or a not alt season, or the fact that we're in a bear market or bull market, and try to avoid just saying price, because that doesn't really mean too much. I understand full prices. Oh, everything sucks. We must be in a bear market, but sucks is subjective. If we have the entire liquidity of all crypto knocking out stable coins, goes from like 3.8 trillion down to 2.2. Okay, now we got a very valid argument, and I got nothing on that one. But let me know what you guys think. Put your thoughts down below. I'll talk to you guys all again soon. Peace.